All right, now that our worksheet is complete, we've planned out all of our patterns. Even though we're not going to use 8 patterns, we've still created 8. That is something I'm going to look for when I grade these. And then we've decided what pattern is going to go in each letter of the name we're going to do. So now you need a blank white paper, which you can find by the door in that white bucket in the classroom if you need one, if you weren't here, if you want to start over. And on this side of the paper, you're just going to write out the name that you're going to be using. So I'm doing the name Sarah. I'm also going to put Sarah with no H down here because we need to, the project will be a little bit different if you have an odd number of letters versus a even. Again, if you have a really long name, if you can shorten it down to something that's 3 letters, at least 3 letters, I suggest that you do that. Okay, so I write the name down that I'm going to do, your first name or a short version of your first name. Not somebody else's name, but your name. I'm going to count up how many letters I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 5 letters. And then I need to know if that's odd or even. So 5 is odd, so I'm going to write that right there. And then I'm going to figure out what letter would be in the middle. So because I have an odd number, I can circle a letter. So the R is going to be in the middle, and then there's 2 letters on this side, 2 letters on this side. If you have an even number, so I count up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 letters, which is an even number. I don't have a letter that's going to be in the middle. I'm going to have a space between letters in the middle. So I just draw a line between those 2 letters are going to split the center. Okay, and then I can flip my paper over, and this is the side that I'm actually going to draw on. You're going to need a ruler for this, and make sure you can see the measurements on the ruler. You're going to need those. So if you are doing a name that's 2, 3, or 4 letters long, you want to use 2 inches as your number. And if you have a name that's 5 or more, if you have 8 or 9 letters, I would really suggest you try to cut it down to 3 or 4 if you can. But if you have 5 or more letters, you're going to need to measure 3 inches for this next part. So my measuring, if I look at my ruler, here's 2 inches, not centimeters. These little ones on this side, those are centimeters metric, so we want to make sure we're doing inches. So I'm going to do Sarah with an H, so it's going to be 3 letters, or 3 inches, because Sarah is 5, so I'm going to use 3 inches, because if we have more letters, they've got to be smaller. So what I'm going to do is, my paper, I'm going to be drawing with it as a long ways versus a tall ways. So I'm going to go to this top corner, and I'm going to measure down 3 inches, make a mark, and then I'm going to go to the other end of the paper and measure down 3 inches and make a mark, and then I'm going to take my ruler and line it up with those 2 marks that I made. 1, 2, and then just draw a line. Remember that we should draw light with our pencil because we're going to end up erasing these lines, so we don't want them to be super dark. So then I'm going to turn my paper over and do the same thing. So I'm going to this edge, measuring down 3 inches, going to this edge, measure down 3 inches. You want to measure 2 places, so then you have a nice, easy way to know that your line is straight because you've measured on both sides. And then I just connect those. Okay, so this line is going to be where all the top of my letters touch. This line is going to be where all the bottom of my letters touch. The next thing I want to do is find the vertical center. So our paper is 11 inches long. Half of 11 is 5.5. So I'm going to line up my paper, and I'm just going to draw a line between these 2 lines that I've drawn. So I'm going to mark 5.5 there, and then come down here and mark 5.5 again, and then I'm going to connect those. Light line so I can easily erase it. Okay, so now I need to remember I'm doing Sarah with an H, which is 5 letters. This is going to be a little bit different if you're doing even numbers. If you have an even number, so 2, 4, 6, or 8, you're going to go to each half and just create that many spaces. So for example, if I was doing Sarah with no H, so even numbers, all I would have to do is split this in half, And you can measure it if you want, but I just like to do it visually, kind of put a line here and say, okay, do those look equal? And then go on this side and do the same thing. Okay, and then I have 4 equal sections. If I had 6, then I would need to make 3 spaces over here and 3 spaces over here. If I had 8, I would need to do 4. Okay, so I'm going to erase those lines. That's how I do it even. So if you had 2, 4, 6, or 8 letters, you would just draw half that many boxes on each side and try to make sure they're the same size. But I have an odd number, so that means I have to put a letter across the middle. One of my letters has to split this middle. So I'm just going to kind of guess and say I think my middle letter can be about this big. Okay, and then I can go in and measure, and that's what I drew was about 2 inches. So I know I'm going to try it and see. So if I do each letter 2 inches, so I've got 5 letters, so I'll have 1 in the middle and then 2 on each side. And if I do each of them 2 inches like that, I know that I can fit all of my letters. So just make a guess first, and if it's too big or too small, then go back and just change them. You want to make sure there's equal, they're all the same, and it's equally spaced. So 2 inches, 2 inches, and yours might be 1.5, it might be 1 3/4. But if you have 5 letters, you can go ahead and do the 2 inches. Just make sure you start in the middle. Okay, so I drew this middle one first, and notice I lined up the middle line with 1 inch, because it's going to go 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side, because my letter's going to go right in the middle. And I can actually erase this middle line so it's not confusing me. Okay, then I can go in and connect these lines, drawing light because I'm going to erase. So now I have spots for all my letters. So once you have your boxes put on, I want you to go up here and just lightly write in what the letters are, so you make sure you have the right number. And they're all about the same size. Okay, again, if you try to fit them in and they're not fitting, then just start over and retry. You want to try to make the letters be as big as you can and still fit. If you have more letters, they're going to be each letter will be a little bit smaller so you can fit them in. Okay, last thing before I start drawing my letters, I want my letters to have spaces between them. So what I'm going to do is right now the boxes are touching and I want to put a space between each box. So I'm going to take my ruler in here and I'm just going to draw a line. So this is where my middle line was. I'm just drawing a line a little bit on this side and then a little bit on this side. And then I'm going to erase that original line that I had in between. So now I have space between my letter boxes. They aren't touching each other anymore. So I'm going to go do that with my other letters. If you have fewer letters, you can make the space bigger. If you have a lot of letters, you'll need to make it a little bit smaller. But try to get it to be about the same between each of them. You also want to make sure that you have your letter boxes are not touching the edge of the paper. So if you, when you did it, you had your box going all the way to the edge, just bring it in a little bit and draw a line right there so it's not touching the edge. The way that I measured mine, I had a little bit of extra space anyway. Okay, so now there's spaces between each of my letters. I can go in and erase the middle lines so they don't confuse me. Okay, now I'm ready to start drawing my block letters. Some of you it will be really easy to draw block letters, some of you it'll be a little bit harder. So help each other out if you can. Don't draw each other's letters, but if you see somebody else has an R and you didn't know how to do an R, you can ask them how they did it. So I like to break my letters down into basic shapes to help me to draw them if I'm struggling. And each letter you draw will touch all 4 sides of your box. Okay, this is the top of the letter, this is the bottom of the letter, this is the side of the letter, this is the side of the letter. So with an S, I do 2 circles, like kind of like a number 8. So I'm going to draw 1 circle. Again, I'm light with my pencil, And it's okay if the circles overlap a little bit, because this is just my guidelines. And then I can come in and do the top half. So I'm going to cut in, and this part of the S is going to connect to this part of the curve right here. Okay, and then I'll do the same or opposite on the bottom. So cut in, and then try to make your letter equally spaced all the way around. So all of this thickness is close to the same. And I don't like this curve very well, so I'm just going to go in and try to fix it, make it look a little better. So that's how I would do an S. An A is basically a triangle, so you can use your ruler to draw these straight lines if you want. But I'm just kind of sketching it in lightly. Try to make the thickness of this letter the same as I did on the S. So this, how wide this is about the same as how wide it is over there. So 2 triangles, and then draw a little crossbar there. The R's can be hard, so I'm going to show you how to draw an R. I'm going to just draw the side piece here first. It's about the same width as I did over here. I'm just using the edges of the box, so my A touches the sides here, and the top and the bottom. The S touches the sides and the top and the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to do a P first. So I'm just going to draw the top like if it was a P, so it touches this side, connects there and there. Okay, then you can put in the other part that goes over here. So I'm going to start about right here and then go to the corner, and then I'll come here and go down. So you can see I could erase lines here and here. Clean that line up a little bit, and then that's an R. A I would erase here. S, erase some of those extra lines. Okay. A, same as I did before, a triangle. So again, if you're struggling with a letter, ask somebody, see if they can help you, or I can help you with it when I get back. Just do the letters you can't do first. And then an H, do the 2 sides, and then a piece that goes across the middle. Okay. Once I get to this point and I like how all of my letters look, then I can erase lines that I don't need. Okay, so all of these, the extra S up there. So I can erase all those guidelines, and hopefully you drew them light so that they disappear easily. And then I'm going to darken up, make some nice lines to say these are what my letter is actually made of. Okay, so that's what my letter is going to look like. Once you've done that with all of your letters, then you can come here with your patterns and say, okay, what was I going to put my S? My S was going to be my Paris pattern. So then I'm going to come inside my letter and finish outlining it, and I can start drawing the pattern inside that letter. Okay, so again, this is what your finish should be, so you should have nice patterns in there. You can do pencil.
Harley McCrary, please come to the office. Harley McCrary, please come to the office.
Sorry, you can go over it with pen when you're done, or just leave it in pencil as long as you've darkened it up in your pencil. You can even add colors to it with colored pencil or colored pens if you have those. Okay, so now your next step is to figure out where are you in this process. Maybe you still need to finish this. Maybe you need to start, grab a blank piece of paper and start. Maybe you want to restart. And figure out, you can rewatch the video if you need to see exactly what to do. Especially if you need to do your laying out of the letters, I really suggest you rewatch the video and go through it step by step, pausing the video, or ask somebody next to you if they'll help you get the layout. Because spending the time to measure and lay out those boxes and add the space between and everything, that's really going going to be a big part of your grade, making sure that your letters are aligned and equally spaced. Okay, so don't skip that step. Then add your letters, and then start putting patterns inside of your letters.